River, you ready to go take a hike? Hey, I'm Brian. This is River. We're on the trail, and today's big question is, why is risk so important for growth? Let's go. The world and society that we live and operate in on a daily basis is so risk averse. We are constantly trying to eliminate risks from not only our lives, but also our businesses, from our schools, from our training centers, places of education and ministry training and everything. We've got warnings, we've got railings, we've got guide walks, we've got safety tethers, we've got OSHA. Just an aside here, if you happen to be my insurance agent or maybe the underwriters who give us the coverages that we're required to have to operate in national forest parks and all those kind of places, let me just say to you, I'm not saying that we like unmitigated risk. In fact, we like mitigating risk. We like controlling the risk. We're all for that. We have procedures in place. We have safety plans. We have backups. We have communication systems. We have training for our volunteers and staff. We have certification process. We also go out and we evaluate the risks. These are all super important things. I'm not saying all out risk is a good thing, but a healthy dose is what we need to grow. I was thinking today about a quote from Yvon Chouinard. He was a big-time climber, kind of a pioneer of routes in Yosemite and really in a lot of places all over the world. He started Chouinard Equipment out of the back of his car, where he sold things like pitons and other devices to help climbers get up the walls in Yosemite. He had a portable forge in the trunk of his car, and just kind of camped out, sold gear to climbers, and then had his own adventures. Later, that company, Chouinard Equipment, kind of got reorganized and ended up becoming the Black Diamond Equipment Company. He also founded Patagonia, which is really known for its clothes, as well as their environmental sustainability efforts. Chouinard wrote a book about his business philosophy, sort of tying the idea of adventure with running a business. And that was called Let My People Go Surfing. It's a really incredible read. It's definitely unconventional wisdom for entrepreneurs and business owners. So the Chouinard quote, I'm going to butcher it, so I'm going to put it on the screen, but it's something along the lines of, the word adventure is overused. To me, adventure is when everything goes wrong. That's when the real adventure begins. And I was thinking about that while I was driving today, because at Summit, we use a definition of adventure that comes from another author, G.K. Chesterton, who wrote that adventure is only inconvenience rightly understood, and that inconvenience is only adventure wrongly understood. I think that's a really interesting concept, because it tells us that it's really about perspective. So in Summit's methodology of leadership, this would sort of be a marriage between perspective, which falls within our vision set of leadership skills, and grit, which is perseverance. Maybe with a little bit of wisdom sprinkled in there. So I just got back from the Wheaton Wilderness just outside of Pagosa Springs, Colorado, where I got to take part in leading a trip of Wheaton College grad students. And it was just an incredible trip to be involved in for a number of reasons. One, the people were just outstanding, and I was very impressed by each of the participants, or students rather, who are seeking to improve their skills not only in the outdoor realm, but also in the educational realm, the academic side of things, but they care deeply about the heart of the matter. So there's a ton of alignment between Summit Outdoor Leadership's ministry model and what these guys are studying for their master's degree in outdoor adventure leadership from Wheaton College. Super cool program, highly recommend it based on my experience with it. Anyway, in addition to some front country classes and even some things that these students had to teach to us, the instructors and guides, there was also a 4-day backcountry portion in which they were paired up as leaders of the day, and they basically took on the responsibility of guide, What is fun is that while most had backpacking experience and even some training in the matter over the last year, many had never led a trip before. So putting them into that leader of the day role was already putting them in over their head, things that they weren't really comfortable with. That's a really healthy thing to do. You might be thinking, wait, hold on, are you saying that you put these students in places where they could possibly fail while they were leading other students in a dangerous backcountry environment? And the answer is, yeah, we did. And I think it's important to do so. So let me give you 3 reasons why. The first reason that this is a model of outdoor training, or really any skill training that is gonna work, is first off, they're gonna fail at some point. So why not do it when we have a safety net of tenured instructors, people who have been working in the field for many years and can help them out, answer questions or problem solve through things, or even pump the brakes if things get to a dangerous place. Reason number 2 is a sense of ownership or agency. And this can be a really powerful thing in a training model. See, we would let these students sometimes make decisions that would be a little bit different than what Mike or I would have preferred, or our own particular styles of leadership. We had to sort of tamp down our own ego in that and allow people to make mistakes potentially. This is a really powerful thing because when you are the one responsible for making a decision, 1, you take it a little more seriously, and 2, you got to deal with the consequences of the matter. That's a very powerful way to learn. Reason number 3 is that this more powerful model of learning decision-making skills, it sticks around longer in people's brains. It gets more clearly cemented due to the risk-reward process, due to being involved in the whole project from beginning to end, to bearing the consequences of your decisions. These are lifelong lessons that will stick around forever. And frankly, it's the way that I was trained as well, almost 20 years ago. Not to mention all the mistakes I made when I started leading trips as a teenager, taking my friends and family out into the backcountry and sometimes really messing things up. Those are the lessons that have stuck with me the longest. What do you think, River? Do we go left or do we go right? You like right? Okay, here we go. Good boy, you got this. We're getting better at being in the car. It's a new thing. I remember at a certain point on this trip, maybe around afternoon of day 3 in the backcountry, where one of the students said something like, man, a lot of things have gone wrong on this trip. And I remember Mike and I just kind of looking at each other across the campfire area and kind of going, good, because we learn a lot more when stuff goes wrong. All those adjustments that had to be made, not only by us as the guides and sort of the safety net, but especially those students who were there for the purpose of honing their skills, testing ideas, and learning. Man, did they have a master class on this, which, that's what they signed up for, I think. Each set of leaders of the day has had a unique set of challenges. And that's really interesting to me. So our first backcountry day leaders, they had the challenge of sort of getting everybody going. And that both of the leaders of the day on that day had a decent amount of backcountry experience, both personally and in leading others. But still, they had the task of wrangling the rest of the group, which included people with high competency, low competency, people with high confidence, people with low confidence. Rallying all of that group together, getting them moving in a unified way down the trail. They also had to deal with the initial idea of trail crossings, which were very minuscule. We were able to keep our feet dry for the most part, but added a layer of complication. They had to deal with the systems of camp, like where to set up tents, where to put a bear hang, how to do water filtering, cooking meals, all those kind of things. They were the first leaders of the day, so they really had to break the ice and try to do a good job, set an example. The second set of leaders of the day had to deal with someone who had a usable knee injury and sort of the decision-making process of what to do with that person, also what that person wanted to do. We ended up splitting the group for part of the time, which was sort of a complicated decision to make and not really my personal preference, but it was handled really well and everyone was safe. The leaders on day 3 had to deal with a number of issues surrounding what was supposed to be our summit day, or the day that we would go up to a higher peak. They had to start off by dealing with a couple of students who were having some issues with the altitude, just kind of minor altitude illness, but it did cause some changes in our plan for the day. I do have to give them some gratitude and props because while we were resting for a moment at Williams Lakes, they let me take out my fly rod and I caught a really sweet Rio Grande cutthroat trout, which is always a treasure, especially at 12,000 feet. Just a real beautiful experience. And as we approached day 4, we just noticed that the challenges began to sort of stack upon one another, which is something that absolutely you want to build into your curriculum and plan for education. But we couldn't have asked for a better culmination in that it started raining very heavily on our final night in the backcountry. And so by the time that our leaders of the day woke up, about 6 a.m., they came over to the tent where Mike and I were sleeping. We had a conversation about the fact that it hasn't stopped raining, and it kind of looks like it's going to keep raining. So maybe we ought to pack up camp and head out a little earlier than expected. Because you remember those stream crossings on day 1 and 2 that we could just barely dip our feet in and get out mostly dry? Well, the water all runs downhill, so we knew it was just going to be getting more and more. And boy, were we right. It ended up being an awesome day for teaching river crossings. We had to coach through a couple of different methods, and then after demonstrating the first crossing, we let our leaders of the day sort of make the decision on how to do the future 3 or 4 crossings, while Mike and I stood in as the safety net. And there's some pictures and video of that here. So at Summit, we frequently end up drawing on a whiteboard somewhere these 3 concentric circles in a diagram that represents our comfort zones. In the inner circle, that truly is our comfort zone. That is the heart of what we know how to handle, comes naturally and easy for us. We talk about how we feel in that space. You feel, maybe your heart is at rest, or if you're joyful and happy in there, then maybe it's a little elevated, but in general, we don't feel feelings of anxiety or fear when we operate within our comfort zone. And then the ring right outside of that, we call the stretch zone. And the stretch zone are places where it takes a little work to get there. It's a little bit of a challenge. That's where you might see reactions like an elevated heart rate. You might see people who are sort of pausing and questioning what's going on here. They're trying to figure things out. Basically, that's an area in which you have stepped out intentionally or accidentally from your comfort zone and you're now challenged by something. Now there's a third ring on the outside of your stretch zone, and that is what we call the panic zone. So this is the place in which we've crossed some kind of line between you feeling stretched, you feeling a little bit worked, to the point of panic, to the place where people lock up, where they go into a fight or flight or flee response, where you can really read it on people's expressions, whether that's anger, sadness, or they just go completely blank. This is a pretty negative response to being overstimulated or over-pushed into an area of challenge. In a holistic model of transformation, where we want to help people target ways of growth within their mind, their body, or their soul, also known as head, heart, and hands, that we want to help people get outside of their comfort zone into their stretch zone on all three of those dimensions. And as a Christian outdoor leadership organization, we're also paying attention to the spirit realm as well. So that means that we're consulting the Holy Spirit, that we're praying, and that we're trying to be open and sensitive to how people might be pushed a little further if they need it, or maybe kind of pulled back to a place of comfort. We have to be good stewards of those who have entrusted us to teach and train them. And that means that we're kind of keeping the finger on their pulse for mind, body, and soul. It's a really hard task, and honestly, it's one of the hardest things to train guides on. But at Summit, like, we've got a really good group in training that I am really stoked about. We just finished up about 12 weeks of what we called the outdoor ministry cohort, and that included some existing Summit volunteers and staff members, as well as some new folks who are from our area in Central Texas, as well as around the country. We have people in Colorado and Tennessee who have been a part of this, and it's just really exciting to see. So why is risk so important for your growth? Well, if you're not willing to risk anything, if you're only willing to go about this life in safe mode, doing the things that you're already comfortable with, doing the things that come easy, doing things that don't make you feel stretched or burdened, then you're never gonna grow. And just like those Wheaton College leaders in training, you've got to put yourself out there. Go try something new. You can study all you want. You can watch all the YouTube videos. You can learn everything that you can about a thing before you start. But until you get out there and you risk making a mistake or failing, you'll never grow. So I challenge you. I want you to tell me, what is the next area of life in which you feel you need to grow? What is something that you know you need to be stepping out in, but you're just a little bit too scared to do it? So I hope these stories challenge you, that they inspire you, and that they even prompt you to get out in that stretchy place where you're really gonna grow. And the deal is that I'll be there too. I'm constantly learning and growing too. So why don't we meet up out there in the stretch zone? Let me know what you're up to, and I can't wait to hear from you. All right, talk to you next time.